So I'm going to start off by sharing briefly about an area of my life that I'm not super proud of. It doesn't necessarily make me feel brave or strong, but is real and is true about me and about my story. So I am someone who has struggled with codependency most of my life. And with that, I'm also someone who has found herself in relationships with narcissistic people or people who at least have narcissistic tendencies and habits. And so I am not a therapist. It's not what I'm going to school for. So I won't give you an expanded definition of like what codependency is or what narcissism is, because that could go on for a long time. So codependency and how it played out in my life was oftentimes caring about helping people more than they cared about helping themselves and overfunctioning, really getting my self-worth and value from the attention and the approval of the people around me. And you can see how that would be problematic in my relationships and my self-worth and my identity, especially as a Christ follower. So I found myself being drawn to in relationships with people who were narcissistic. How that brief definition would be, first of all, sort of like a cold-blooded animal. So if you remember in school learning about like warm-blooded animals who can sort of regulate their own temperature, and then cold-blooded animals that cannot, that really need the environment around them to take from that in order to regulate themselves. Oftentimes, sort of the term would be called like sort of like emotional vampires, where it's a taking. And so as someone who struggles with codependency, you want to give because that's how you feel important. And someone who struggles with narcissism needs to take. And so you can see how that's sort of like a perfect storm. And so that next step in that journey of realization is why? What was it in me that was drawn towards these types of relationships? And that I can expand on, but for the purpose of keeping this video short, I would just say that getting into relationships very young, always being in a relationship, like I think since I was 14, I needed to be in a relationship in order to feel accepted or worthy. And so I think that played a lot into perfectionism, needing the approval of other people. And again, you can see how that would be an issue if I'm following Christ and my identity is in Him and He has a journey for me that's just for me. And so I want to encourage you that as you dig into your story a little bit deeper, or you start to trust people with versions or parts of your story that maybe you've only kept to yourself so far, that you can unlearn unhealthy behaviors. You can grow from your past and you can learn healthy alternatives. Don't be surprised that as you really dig deep and the Lord starts to uncover parts of your story that maybe you had forgotten about, maybe you had pushed down, maybe you've been in denial about. Don't be surprised when you come across areas of trauma. It means you're on the right path. Get the help, get the support that you deserve and that you need. Don't give up. Because those are the areas more often than not that God uses. Those are your passions. Your brokenness is usually what leads you to your power. So I will leave you with, just keep this in mind, that not all areas of your story will look pretty, but I promise you that they are altogether beautiful.
Beautiful, intelligent.